Are these the first volleys in America's next civil war?
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and he's a bitch.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
And he can suck my
He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any day of the week and give him a Louisville Slugger.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Kiss my mother.
Which side of the aisle is really spewing hateful rhetoric?
Pointing what appears to be a water gun at the image of President Donald Trump projected on a whiteboard, art teacher Pale Modi has now been seen by countless viewers.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, The J.J. McCartney Show, exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state.
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage.
How much longer can America survive this kind of hatred?
Video depicting comedian Kathy Griffin holding the bloody, decapitated head of President Trump are no joking matter for the Secret Service.
The rhetoric that has inspired the violence has come from the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
They're involved in the coup, an active attempt to start a bloody civil war.
I want people to imagine an FBI director that has the stones to investigate the deep state. Imagine a justice system that has the integrity to prosecute corrupt government officials. They have refused to apply the 14th Amendment and give conservatives equal protection under the law. What we've seen here has been the gradual takeover of the government by corporatism, by globalism. They have wrested control of our government away from the citizenry and put it in the hands of a few special interests. And these special interests are as evil as the day is long.
We finally do have a president who has the integrity to do this. We finally do have a DOJ who has the integrity to do this. We know that we have people around the president who not only have the integrity, but have the information and the contacts to get everything done you just said. And you say, well, why aren't they doing it? Everything you're seeing on the news, that's what it's about. That's what this investigation's about. That's what calls of impeachment are about. That's what the globalist attack against Trump is about. That's what the hearings are about. That's what the allegations of Russian spying are about. It's about keeping them off point, keeping them off the agenda, keeping them off task. A lot of what you're watching happening right now, and the misdirection and the complete trying to keep Trump off target goes to that birth certificate. The worst crime in American history was perpetrated against America under the regime of Barack Obama. The media is complicit. Congress is complicit. Federal law enforcement apparently has been complicit. We've got a CIA whistleblower, Dennis Montgomery, whose attorney, Larry Klayman, put it all over the internet the other day that he has said that all of this spying that's been going on American people, that it resulted in manipulation and collusion with judges, Supreme Court justices, congressmen, etc., that James Comey was involved in it, that he was at the top of it. All of this stuff you're seeing about Donald Trump's with the Russians, Donald Trump needs to be impeached, Donald Trump, this is a smokescreen to keep our eyes off of what really happened and what's really going on. And America had better wake up to this, JJ.
Your federal government, your federal law enforcement agencies, our federal intelligence agencies, your federal government in toto has been compromised. The fact that Donald Trump has arrived and said, I'm not going to go along with the status quo anymore, is the cause for alarm for these people on the left. And ultimately, Carl, is it possible that yesterday was simply the first shot fired in an impending civil war between two irreconcilable ideologies?
I don't want our children and grandchildren to see or to participate or to fall victim to such a thing. I don't want our nation to go through such a thing. I don't know that we could survive that. Like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, when he said, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. I mean, God's people, we need to pray. We need to not be afraid to speak truth.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, The J.J. McCartney Show. Exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state. The following is a Nightside Radio Studios production.
From the wind-powered Nightside Radio Studios,
tear down this wall.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
It's this man. It's the compassion. It's the dignity. It's the wisdom. It's the horse sense of the guy.
Did you know that 65% of the people murdered in the last 10 years were killed by handguns?
Would it make you feel any better, little girl, if they was pushed out of windows?
The American people have seen the truth, and they can see through your lies. There's coming a day when publications such as yours turn into nothing more than flea market advertising. They'll be handing it out for free in grocery store parking lots under everybody's windshield wiper. Yeah, that's the future for the Washington Post and the New York Times and every other liberal publication in this country. We are not going to tolerate your bull anymore. None of it. The American people are fed up. I thought we made that clear on November 8th, but apparently you people in the media just don't get it. A new chapter in American history begins now.
It is my high honor and distinct privilege to introduce to you the President-elect of the United States of America.
Donald Trump is the person to make America great again.
We are a team.
They said it couldn't be done.
Together we will lead our party back to the White House.
He said it must be done.
Beginning on January 20th, we cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. The most important difference between our plan and that of our opponent is that our plan will put America first.
Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, thank you, Marcus, and welcome, everybody. Welcome to this Wednesday, the 31st day of January. We lead off the broadcast today with breaking news. You've likely already heard about it. We'll try and get you some in-depth details on the train collision that happened aboard an Amtrak train carrying 300 Republican lawmakers to a retreat in West Virginia. The not a derailment, but the collision happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we will give you all the information we have at present. And we want to welcome everybody to the broadcast today. We are expecting IQ Al Rassooli, although have not been able to contact him yet, but we will not stop trying. But right now, let's go ahead and get to the news. The Amtrak train collided with some type of truck on the railroad tracks. The apparent driver of the truck was killed. It was a train carrying members of Congress to a Republican retreat in West Virginia. It slammed into a dump truck, early reports say, throwing lawmakers from their seats and leaving at least one person dead, according to officials. Minor injuries were reported by those on board, but the White House confirmed in a statement that there was one fatality and one serious injury. Lawmakers said this involved those in the truck, which may have been stuck on the tracks when it was hit. You know, I would love to see the media be a little bit more realistic about this. Instead of saying it may have been stuck on the tracks, how about we say it may have been placed on the tracks deliberately in an act of terrorism? It seems to me that, ladies and gentlemen, would be the more reasonable assumption to make. It's a little too coincidental that we have 300 lawmakers on this Amtrak train headed for a retreat in Greenbrier, West Virginia. Now, there were mixed reports over whether the train actually derailed, but sources said the front engine ended up with wheels off the tracks. Lawmakers on the train quickly flooded social media with images of the wrecked truck, as well as damage to the crumpled front of the train. So this is what we know. It was a very high-speed collision. One confirmed fatality, one serious injury. There are no serious injuries among members of Congress or their staff, according to White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders. Senior administration officials are in regular contact with Amtrak and state and local authorities. Our thoughts and prayers with everyone that has been affected by this incident. After initially claiming there were no reported injuries to passengers or crew members, Amtrak later said 2 crew members and 2 passengers were transported to a local hospital with minor injuries. Local law enforcement is investigating. Well, you think? Local law enforcement is investigating, according to Amtrak. One of those passengers was apparently Representative Jason Lewis, Republican of Minnesota, who told Fox News he had a little bit of whiplash and maybe a tiny bit of a concussion. University of Virginia health system indicated more patients were arriving and said one is in critical condition. A statement put out on Twitter said at this time, after the train crash in Crozelle, I guess is the name of this place, or is it Crozet? Somebody that's from the local area could probably do a better job of helping us weed through this. It's Crozet. Okay, 3 patients were transported to UVA Medical Center, and 2 additional patients are being transported there. 1 patient in critical condition. The remaining patients are still being evaluated. Representative Pete Sessions, Republican from Texas, while saying some members needed medical attention, told Fox News the fatality involved an individual in the truck. Now, also there was another congressman, Congressman Denham, that confirmed this and said others in the truck were airlifted out. House Speaker Paul Ryan was on the train, but is fine. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was not on the train. The accident being called an accident. So this is way too soon to call this an accident. Far too soon to call it an accident. The incident took place in Crozet, Virginia, near Charlottesville. Members were on a special chartered Amtrak train to the Greenbrier Resort, where Vice President Pence was set to speak tonight with a planned appearance from President Trump on Thursday. The retreat is where the party traditionally gathers to discuss its agenda and goals for the coming year, and was starting a day after President Trump's State of the Union address. We'll cover that in more complete detail later. The retreat is expected to go on as planned. The train, which had a functional engine on the other end, was able to run in reverse back to Charlottesville, where members were taking buses to West Virginia. While injuries on the train were largely described as minor, Representative Roger Marshall, Republican from Kansas, a medical doctor, tweeted that he was helping the injured immediately after the crash. He tweeted, "We are on our way to our annual GOP retreat. The train carrying members and spouses hit something. Lena and I are okay, and I am helping those that are injured. I will have Lena keep you updated as I know more." Next, said the train hit a garbage truck. They're asking for doctors on the trains to help. Right now, Dr. Marshall is helping people who are injured. Now, a Politico reporter, Representative According to a Politico report, Representative Greg Walden, Republican of Oregon, and others posted photos of the wreckage of the truck where the most serious injuries were reported. And it certainly does look like a garbage truck that was filled with garbage. Now, looking at these pictures, I mean, obviously this wasn't a fender bender. This was something a little more serious. And the train apparently was traveling at a good rate of speed when the collision took place. In a phone interview from the train, North Carolina Representative Mark Walker described several helicopters in the air, saying there was also lots of armed security working to determine it was either an accident or if there was some nefarious behavior. We don't think that that's the case, he told Fox News. The incident is the latest tragedy to affect congressional Republicans who were targeted in a shooting last summer, you recall, in which Representative Steve Scalise of Louisiana was hit. We were told that Scalise was not on the Amtrak train today. The crash also follows another fatal incident last January when a motorcade was shuttling Senate Democrats to their retreat in West Virginia when an SUV stopped for the motorcade. The vehicle was rear-ended and exploded, and the driver died. You know, I just honestly, you want to believe the best about people, and you want to believe that, you know, this was just a simple accident. But I'm sorry, I do not believe in coincidence. I really don't. Certainly not in this case. I do not believe in coincidence. Not where a train carrying 300 GOP lawmakers suddenly strikes a vehicle stuck on the track. It just doesn't add up to me. All right, we're still trying to get a hold of IQ Al Rassooli, unsuccessful so far. I'm not sure if IQ might have forgotten about our little weekly get-togethers here, or whether he has been otherwise detained and unavailable. I don't know. That's the only thing I can tell you. We are operating under the assumption that IQ will be with us, but... Oh, here we go. All right. He is listening to me. Okay. All right. Okay, let me check the... hang on, IQ. We'll see if we can get this all squared away. And I thank you, IQ, for joining us. Was there a problem with Skype, I wonder? Let's find out.
Yeah, I had a problem with...
Okay, that's no
Hello?
problem. Yep, hey. We're here. We are
here.
Can
you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hang on, IQ. Let me get this...
Fantastic. Yeah, I had a problem with Skype. It doesn't recognize my everything all of a sudden. After all these years, it doesn't recognize who I am.
All right, we'll get that taken care of. Let me do that. And let me... Okay, we'll try that. We'll try that. And we're going to get rid of that. Okay. Now, IQ, can you hear me?
100%.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, we got that squared away. Thank you for joining us, IQ. Obviously, it's a busy news day because of the train collision in Virginia. Are you like me? Are you a little more apprehensive about accepting the media's attempt to make this sound like it was just an accident?
But what I don't understand, why was that truck on the tracks in the first place? I don't understand that.
Exactly. Traveling with a train with 300...
Especially a garbage truck, because they must know the time, they must know the location, they must know everything if they're a garbage truck.
And notice that they haven't released the names of the driver or the passengers or whoever is on the garbage truck. But
yeah, that's another story.
I do not believe in this kind of coincidence. Not when we are carrying 300 Republican lawmakers on this Amtrak train, specially chartered Amtrak train to carry them to a retreat. And this train, is heavily guarded. It would have to be. And for a vehicle to be on the tracks, it's just beyond, the odds of this happening are just beyond astronomical as an accident. True. The odds of it being a deliberate act of terror, I think, are quite high at this point. And it really pisses me off that the media tries to act so innocent and naive in trying to claim that this is nothing but an accident.
Don't get upset. By the way, in Europe, the speech that Donald Trump gave yesterday is not even mentioned.
Wow. You're kidding me.
Yeah. I'm not kidding you.
Well, let me just tell you a few things about the speech. Let's get into that because, first of all, CBS News, no friend of the president, we all know, CBS News did polling immediately after the State of the Union. 75% of Americans absolutely approved of President Trump's speech last night.
I know. I read the same report.
Is it not amazing that this president...
No, it's amazing only if it means that some Democrats have woken up. That's amazing.
Right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you were an honest Democrat and you were watching last night and you saw the behavior of Nancy Pelosi and Luis Gutierrez and other Democrats... they were, especially Nancy Pelosi. She looked like she had a whole bunch of seeds stuck in her dentures last night.
Maybe they were.
Who knows? But her behavior was really, really
not
classless.
Only her behavior, by the way.
Right.
The Black Caucus, or so-called Black Caucus. By the way, you know something? For years, I've been asking the question. We talk about racism in America, especially by black people.
Right.
And then you have the Black Police Association.
Yep.
You have the Black Caucus Association. It's black. It doesn't say white.
And
racism?
Didn't they seem like complete political shills last night when you consider the fact the president...
They were really, they behaved in a disgusting manner.
The president
and some of the excuse was that...
the president simply pointed out the fact that unemployment among African Americans is at an all-time low. It's never been lower than it is right now.
It started with Obama. That's the point. They're saying that it has nothing to do with him. I don't know how it started with Obama. I can't figure it out.
Yeah. Was it Obama that wrote those tax cuts?
No, but I can't figure it out. I mean, how was unemployment among Americans under Obama was good when it never went? The job 3%? Was it 3% unemployment? It never went up.
No, the gross domestic product never exceeded 3%. It never even got to 3% under Obama. Now,
correct. It was 2.8 or 2.9 or something.
Donald Trump, in his first year in office, created something like I want to say
$8 trillion.
Yeah, $8 trillion in gained wealth on Wall Street. But in terms of jobs, I mean, 2.5 million jobs in his first year created. And the quality of the jobs, and you look at, since the tax cuts, bonuses to, I don't know how many employees of how many companies, pay raises. The tax cut itself is going to result in bigger paychecks starting next month. And everybody's tax bills are going to go down considerably. He doubled the personal exemptions on your income tax, so that when you go to calculate the deduction for a married couple is doubled, so that you don't pay any taxes at all on the first $24,000 you earn. And I can't tell you how that's going to help some people. You know, federal income tax, some people don't think it's a big deal. But when you look at how much money is going to be freed up by lowering the business tax rate from 35 to 21%, I mean, that is a huge windfall, not just for the businesses, but for the employees. And I thought that Mr. Trump did an excellent job last night of pointing out how many different people are benefiting from the tax cuts. And they haven't even taken effect yet. I mean, this man has brought a tremendous new attitude of hope and optimism to America, IQ.
Look, anybody who is decent and fair-minded would have come to the right conclusion, which is the same conclusion that you and I come to. But most of these Democrats, they are not decent human beings to start with. Their objective for all this, Nancy Pelosi and that black woman called Walters or something, they made millions. How did they make millions, for God's sake? Earning a salary. How did they make millions earning a salary? You can't make millions earning a salary.
No, they were on the take.
But they made millions. That black one who attacks Donald Trump all the time, is it Walters or Waters or something?
Yes. Maxine Waters of California, just a deplorable human being.
How did she become such a millionaire? What did she produce that would cause her to be a millionaire? I want to know. It's got to be corruption.
Absolutely.
And it is corruption.
Yes. Yes, it is.
It has to do with she's black or not. I don't give a damn if she's black, yellow, or polka dot. But the black caucus, the word black caucus alone is racist.
Yes,
and they talk about white racism. The black the Black Police Association, that's racism. Because if somebody said the white club, everybody would have been going on fire. But it's all right to say black. How is it all right? Well, I want to know. Why the double standard? You know, nobody ever asked this question in America. Nobody. All these years, all these decades, not a single person raised the question. You talk about racism.
Meanwhile,
and you talk about Black Caucus and Black Police Association. Why black? It's a police association. Why black?
Meanwhile, IQ, the Washington Post, did you hear about this? The Washington Post last night, leading up to the President's State of the Union address, had gotten Tuesday's edition printed with a headline that said, "A call for bipartisanship." Well, apparently liberals just went completely crazy and complained to the Washington Post. And so what does Jeff Bezos do? He tells him to change the headline. And the new headline just reads, "A New American Moment." Now, I don't know why there's any need to change the headline. Did or did not the president last night call for bipartisanship and working together on, collecting our common ground and working to make the lives of Americans better? And, why would anybody take issue with that?
Well, Democrats will take issue with everything. And I'm never surprised anymore, honestly. I can be shocked, but not surprised. They are deficient in intelligence. They're deficient in logic. They are deficient in morality.
Yes.
All they want to do is mix postures.
I got to tell you, though.
These postures are not going to work anymore, by the way. When the economy continues going up and up and up, these people are going to be sent to the dustbin of history.
Yes.
Within a year. Within a year, they'll end up in the dustbin of history. All of them.
And, the
economy goes on.
One of the things that they were trying to do yesterday, there was a real effort afoot to push Wall Street downward yesterday. It had fallen at some point like close to 400 points. And there were people out there going crazy. But what they didn't realize is the volume of trading yesterday was extremely low. I think a lot of people were just waiting to hear what the president had to say in his speech. Now, today...
Which makes sense. Exactly. You wait until the president speaks before you make a decision on what to do.
Now, today, the market is up, moderately up, but it's still above 26,000. And the this idea that a victory on Wall Street is bad for the American people is insane. I've never met a person yet, with the exception of small business people that employ themselves. I've never met a person yet that worked for a poor man. At the end of the day, with the exception of self-employed people, you want companies to do well. You want stocks to go up. You want growth in the economy. And it's clear after 8 years of Obama that that's not what the Democrats want.
No, the Democrats never wanted this for 60, 70 years. It didn't start with Obama.
Exactly.
The Democrats' idea is that the government, and that's themselves, of course, they know better what's good for the American people. That's it. That's simple. Always. It's always been the same case.
Yep.
Think about it. Believe me. It hasn't changed. The mindset has not changed. The characters might have changed, and they did. The presidents have changed, and they did. But the methodology is exactly the same. Government knows best. Bull crap. Whenever government interferes, it screws up. Because they have bureaucracy.
That's right.
And when you create a bureaucracy, the left-hand side doesn't know what the right-hand side is doing.
Yeah, and,
you need an efficient government with the minimum number of people. The best companies are run by the minimum number of people at the top, not the 20, 30, 40 directors and CEOs and everything else.
Right.
Never.
Right. IQ, we're going to take a quick break here in just a moment, and when we come back, I want to share a piece that comes from Michael Goodwin at the New York Post that really, succinctly explains, the effect that Donald Trump is having on the Republican Party, and I think it's very good news, and it's a perspective that everybody needs to hear. So we'll share that plus much, much more. Phone lines are open at 855-853-5227. We also want to talk to anybody that's in the vicinity of Charlottesville, Virginia. I want to talk about the demography around Charlottesville, where the collision between the Amtrak train and the garbage truck took place. And I want to find out a little more about the area. And, because honestly, I think that, we don't know the whole story yet, but I heartily believe there is much more to this story. We'll find out about it and more with IQ Al Rassooli. Again, phone lines open at 855-853-5227. We'll be right back.
The J.J. McCartney Show.
Hey, everybody. J.J. McCartney back here for our good friends at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Folks, there's one thing that there never seems to be a shortage of in this world, and that is uncertainty, unrest. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Natural disasters, economic downturns, whatever it is, you can be prepared by going to MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. They have got everything you need, from ProPure gravity-fed water filtration systems to Kimberly stoves to these composting toilets. Ladies and gentlemen, at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com, you can prepare for anything. Food storage? No problem. Advice? No problem. Call our good friend Sue at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com. Find out what's there for you. Great prices, great advice, and guess what, folks? You'll find it all at MountainViewOffGridLiving.com.
I felt this thrill going up my leg. You know, I get the same thrill up my leg all over me. If you're gay, you know that America, at its most idealistic, stands for your right to love, because an American president has now declared as much.
President's embracing your children in the way that God did when he created your children.
We live in a powerful time, and as long as Barack Obama's at the helm, and will continue to be.
Commander, give us our orders and tell us where we're going. Give us the mission.
This guy's done everything right. He's raised his family right. Everything he's done is clean as a whistle. He's never not only broken any law, he's never done anything wrong. He's the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect American.
Darling, you got full control of your puppet.
I felt this thrill going up my leg.
What do you say to Chris Matthews?
I don't know what I'd say to him, other than maybe I'm glad he's put on a dry diaper and isn't getting that tingle down his leg anymore. But, you know, you mentioned these guys before.
Someday there'll be a cure. Someday we won't lose the people we love. But when is someday? Someday is today. Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, hundreds of thousands diagnosed with blood cancer are today living a normal life. We're making cures happen. Join us. Call 888-HELP-LLS or go to LLS.org. Help us reach today sooner.
From the wind-powered Nightside Radio Studios, this is the J.J. McCartney Show.
There's a nasty little criminal on the loose.
It could be in your area. In fact, it could be in your backyard.
It's the Asian longhorned beetle.
Yeah, that's right. A beetle, the insect kind.
Black and white, long striped antenna. It's a tree killer.
This is one bad beetle. It's caused the destruction of thousands of trees already.
Thing is, we can't spot it now. It's gone undercover, inside the trees.
Cold weather drives it into hiding.
So now, it's a game of waiting it out.
What can you do to help?
You can be a beetle buster and protect the trees.
Don't move firewood, because the beetle, its larvae, its eggs, they could be in the wood.
If you move firewood, you could spread the beetle.
So buy it locally, burn it locally. Got it?
It's as simple as black and white. Don't move firewood.
Be a beetle buster. Learn more at beetlebusters.info.
That's beetlebusters.info. A message from the USDA.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. It's the Wednesday edition of the J.J. McCartney Show with IQ Al Rassooli alongside. Good to have you with us, IQ. And, okay, here is the deal. Yesterday, the president delivered the State of the Union address, and I want to share a story that comes from Michael Goodwin over at the New York Post. He says Donald Trump is teaching Republicans how to fight. And this is invaluable. What the president is doing is invaluable right now. It's an observation so strikingly true that you wonder why you or somebody else didn't think of it earlier. Donald Trump. A friend said the other day, is teaching the Republican Party how to fight and how to win. Now, the evidence is everywhere, every day. And it was on vivid display last night as the president remains in a fighting mood, determined to keep punching his way forward. The Trump way started with the passage of the historic tax cuts, despite tiny Republican majorities in Congress and scare tactics from the left. Now, before passage, polls showed the public was strongly opposed. But Trump pulled, pushed, and bullied his party over the finish line. The roaring results, with millions of workers already getting bonuses, pension boosts, and pay hikes, vindicates his determination. Another piece of evidence is that the government shutdown over the Dreamers was a huge defeat for Democrats, and Trump piled on the pain with a blistering ad about crimes by illegal immigrants that helped force divided Dems back to work. The decision by the House Intelligence Panel to write and release its memo on possible FBI misdeeds is yet more evidence of a new fighting spirit. Even Speaker Paul Ryan, averse to conflict by temperament and training, forcefully supported the memo's release, saying it was time to cleanse the FBI. Now, this is not George Bush or John Boehner's Republican Party. This is Trump's GOP, as he demonstrated in spades in his first State of the Union address. For days, the White House advertised his speech as one where a kinder, gentler Trump would reach across the aisle and invite opponents to work with him on bipartisan programs to fix our broken immigration system and our crumbling infrastructure. After all, that's what Republicans usually do, soften their tone and, badgered by a liberal Washington press corps, give in to big government ideas. And while Trump did indeed deliver on those promises, it was just barely. Those offers were exceptions in an otherwise damn the Democrats' full speed ahead performance. If this was Trump reaching out his hand, he was doing it from a position of strength and supreme confidence. If there is to be compromise, Dems will have to pay dearly for it. That the president intends to drive a hard bargain was made clear during his remarks on immigration, when he said, pointedly, Americans are dreamers too. The tough tone, leavened only by the moving stories of first responders, military heroes, and other noteworthy guests seated near the First Lady, suggests that Trump is sticking with what got him to the dance in the first place. He will continue to be who he is. The idea that he should be someone else has been a constant refrain from the day he entered the race in 2015. Occasionally, he has, but only temporarily, and if last night means anything, it's that he sees no reason to make radical changes now. The tax reform and the early signs that it will pay big dividends in economic growth and higher wages give the president a strong wind at his back. He rightly touted the exuberance as our new American moment and declared that there has never been a better time to start living the American dream. On one hand, that approach is a high-risk gamble for Trump. Trump is putting all his chips and his parties on the belief that his accomplishments will win over enough voters so the GOP can keep both houses of Congress. Indeed, some polls are already reflecting movement in his direction. A Fox News poll this week shows his approval rating climbing to 45%, but that was before the speech. Now, the risk is that if he's wrong, and the midterms are a referendum on him instead of his policies, then the House could flip to Democrats, many of whom want to draw up an impeachment article on day one. And with special counsel Robert Mueller still on the prowl, the risk is multiplied. Yet in truth, America also saw evidence last night that Trump's bet may be his best chance. The Dems, who came to hear the president, looked like the unhappiest people on earth last night. They rarely stood and applauded, except when it would have been embarrassing not to. Even when the president touted the lowest African-American unemployment in history, the party that produced the first black president and has the lock on the black vote, gave a collective scowl. Dems, then, are giving Trump no reason to believe that they're ready to bargain. All of them in both houses voted against tax cuts. And House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi even demeaned bonuses and pay hikes as crumbs. The party is still stuck in resistance mode, with Congress members following the radical left like so many lemmings. Against that backdrop, Trump has nobody on the other side to negotiate with. For now, at least, full speed ahead is both his best and only option. IQ, your thoughts?
Perfect. It's a repeat of what he was saying all along. He was very positive. He was very much in control. Everything he said was literally positive. Nothing was negative. And he was right. When Americans do the job, not the government, they excel infinitely more than when the government interferes. We come again to the basics. Will enough Americans have the intelligence and the integrity and the patriotism to remove from office in 2018 all those who oppose Donald Trump? Will they go out and vote? That's the bottom line, really. That is literally the bottom line. If not enough Americans go and vote in support of Donald Trump, all what he has achieved in a year and a half or 2 years will be washed away.
Well, I'd like to point this out, though, IQ, because this is my own observation, given the fact that I've followed American politics for as long as I have. It seems to me that the people that show up at the polls and vote, and the ones that prevail, are the ones that are most enthusiastic for their side. And when you look at the two parties right now, I believe the conservative GOP voters are definitely more excited about the cause and about the president and about his policies than those on the left. And this will be the same way that it's always been. The Republicans will be campaigning for things. The Democrats are going to be campaigning against things. And when it all comes down to it, they're going to be campaigning against Donald Trump. While the Republicans, on the other hand, if they're smart, are going to be campaigning for the American people and the policies of President Trump. The idea here is we've started the ball rolling, and we've got to keep going. Forward momentum. And Donald Trump understands this. Any good businessman understands this. Once you get your people rolling that ball, especially when you come to a little hill, you have to keep rolling the ball in one direction. Your momentum and your strength and your enthusiasm is what keeps that ball rolling. On the other hand, if you get complacent and you come up on a hill, then you just might find that ball starts rolling right backwards towards you. I think President Trump is way too savvy to let that happen. And his communications with the American people through Twitter and through his spokespeople at the White House, their message is unfiltered. Their message is getting through to the American people. The mainstream media is losing their stranglehold on communicating with the American people. And the president has carried America in a dramatic way in the last year, from being a nation that was in the doldrums and it was going through all kinds of confusion to a nation now that believes that we're moving in the right direction. And that, IQ, I think, is going to be the difference this year in these midterm elections. The Democrats and the media can deceive themselves all day long, but there's no way that they can take away the accomplishments of this president, and I don't believe that the Democrat voters are going to be nearly as enthused as the conservative voters of America will be.
With all the positive things that you have said, with which I agree, one single element is the deciding factor. Donald Trump is positive, he's doing the right thing. Whether the followers of Donald Trump will be as dedicated as he is, that will be the deciding factor. They have, by dedication, I mean, first, to expand and the message of what Donald Trump is doing. Make sure in any confrontation with anybody to have the correct and truthful figures available, to address at all times by Donald Trump, especially the administration, at all times, whenever something good happens to the African Americans or the Latino Americans who were the ones who opposed him, he's got to highlight it at all times. At all times. Forget about the Black Caucus. Forget about the Democratic Party. And forget about the news media, because he's already denuded the news media. He is directly in touch with the American people, in fact, with the whole world with Twitter. Not only the American people.
I got to tell you.
He has direct communication. This is what's destroying the news media, who used to lord it over everybody. They can't lord it anymore. Most people who have 2 brain cells of logic and a bit of decency know that CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, all of these are corrupt, pathological liars. That's it. It's very simple. It's not complicated. I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not an American citizen.
IQ.
So I have no axe to grind either way.
I got to tell you, some of the headlines.
And I live in Europe.
Some of these
headlines.
headlines.
I live in Europe, and I'm telling you, the Europeans are also the same as the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The leaders I'm talking about. The leaders in Europe are exactly the same.
They have their heads.
Brain dead.
They have their heads firmly jammed up their own
backside.
Yes. Thank you. Now, check this out. How's this? This proves your point. CNN headline: Melania wearing white to protest her husband. What?
Say it again.
A CNN headline reads: Melania wore white to protest her husband.
Why? She should have worn black, not to protest.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but
I would have thought if she wore black, then she would be protesting. But wearing
honestly,
white is in support.
Yes, absolutely. Now, here we go with other headlines. This one: the American Civil Liberties Union complains, saying Trump used the word America more than 80 times. Excuse me, how in the world is that a problem?
No, it's a problem for the Democratic Party.
Yep, absolutely.
It's a problem for those people who oppose, because that's racism, that's nationalism, that means Nazism.
Mm-hmm.
Are you with me?
Yep.
Yeah. That's how they break it down. First, patriotism, nationalism, that's Nazism. That's racism. No, he's right to mention America 80 times.
Absolutely.
100% right. Because he is representing the American people, not the Chinese, not the Muslims, and not the Democratic Party.
Yeah, it's like, what would these people expect? For example, what would they expect our Olympic athletes to do when they get to the games? Lose on purpose?
No. Don't salute, knee.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bend the knee, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Listen, you and I are on the same wavelength. I despise these people. I don't hate them. When you hate somebody, you destroy your own soul. I despise them. You know, when I see these headlines, I can't figure out how is it conceivable that these people are paid millions of dollars to be on CNN representing, and yet they don't have a clue. They have no brain. Literally, they have no brain. They're brain dead.
Did you see the pathetic Democratic response from little Joe Kennedy III last night?
No.
Oh my God!
What did Joe Kennedy III do?
Well, first of all, this boy, and I'm going to call him a boy because that's what he looks like. He looks like a cross between Ted Kennedy and Opie, Ronnie Howard from the Andy Griffith Show. He was, I mean, seriously, wet behind the ears, and then, that wasn't enough, so he was drooling during his speech last night. He was actually drooling during his speech last night. And there are people out there saying, no, it wasn't drool, it was chapstick. No. You look at this, he was frothing at the mouth, and he was spewing.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean? What does it mean that he was frothing at the mouth?
He was overly enthusiastic about regurgitating every tired, lame, liberal policy and claim that he could come up with. Everything he said was just artificial. It was so, as politicians go, and the news media was trying to build him up as the next heir apparent from the Kennedy clan. And when you, oh my God, you got to watch the video of his response last night, simply so you can corroborate what I'm saying. Because honestly, folks, the last thing this country needs is another Ted Kennedy. And this guy, I mean, seriously, he looks like he's still in high school. And his pathetic attempt at a response last night did nothing for his party except make them look like the desperate, no solutions party that the Democrats really are. There's not one problem they have a solution for. And the more they talk
they have. Sorry, they have. Their solution is more taxation, more government, more bureaucracy, more rules. Well, of course they have, yes. But more of negatives. That's all they have. More and more of negatives. And that's what Donald Trump has been doing. Burning all the dead brush, all of it. All the rules and regulations which are irrelevant, he's taking them out. He's reducing the bureaucracy. As far as I know, he removed 1,500 people from the Veterans Association who did not do their job properly. Wow. Amazing.
I love the point he made. I love the point he made that it should be easier to fire government employees that are not working in the best interest of the American people.
Of course.
I love that.
Of course. You know, people don't realize, 3,000 years ago, a man called Hammurabi in Mesopotamia, which is Iraq today, one of the rules he had, he created laws, 248. He said any government official who is not doing his job and stealing will be executed. I'm talking about 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Over 3,000 years ago. Any government official who does not do his duty or cheats the state would be executed. I agree with him. When you elect a person, because you are trusting them to take care of you.
Yes.
And if they deceive you and cheat you, well, death sentence is definitely is treason.
Yeah, IQ.
The sentence for treason is death.
I think
it's not unusual.
We're going to continue next hour with the conversation, and I think, IQ, that if the GOP memo regarding the FBI is released to the public, it will be the most significant news story of the year, because it will expose...
I hope you are right. I'm not so sure.
It will expose a grand conspiracy at the FBI. It will expose collusion between the Democrat Party, the FBI, and the creator of the dossier. This is going to...
But JJ, sorry, you're forgetting something. According to the Democratic Party, the American people are too stupid to understand it.
Well, according to the Democratic Party, the American people would never elect Donald Trump. So,
yes, I know.
What kind of credibility do they have?
I'm adding insult to injury by saying that this document of 4 pages is beyond the comprehension of American people, which is an insult to 330 million Americans.
Yes. Yep. I think that once this thing is released, it's a game changer. It is an absolute game changer.
I hope so.
And
we'll see.
And if Robert Mueller doesn't understand that, then he's dumber than he looks. So stick around, folks. IQ Al Rassooli is here. I am here. You are here. Get your dialing fingers ready. Next hour, we'll continue. Hour number 2 coming up next. Are these the first volleys in America's next civil war?
He's not a tough guy. He's a bully and he's a bitch.
He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig.
And he can suck my
He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt.
I'll meet him in a hotel room any day of the week and give him a Louisville slugger.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
Kiss my mother.
Which side of the aisle is really spewing hateful rhetoric?
Pointing what appears to be a water gun at the image of President Donald Trump projected on a whiteboard, art teacher Pale Modi has now been seen by countless viewers.
Yes, I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time, The J.J. McCartney Show, exposing the truth, exposing the lies, exposing the deep state.
It's an actor dressed to look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage.
How much longer can America survive this kind of hatred?
Video depicting comedian Kathy Griffin holding the bloody, decapitated head of President Trump are no joking matter for the Secret Service.
The rhetoric that has inspired the violence has come from the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
They're involved in the coup, an active attempt to start a bloody civil war.
I want people to imagine an FBI director that has the stones to investigate the deep state. Imagine a justice system that has the integrity to prosecute corrupt government officials. They have refused to apply the 14th Amendment and give conservatives equal protection under the law. What we've seen here has been the gradual takeover of the government by corporatism, by globalism. They have wrested control of our government away from the citizenry and put it in the hands of a few special interests. And these special interests are as evil as the day is long.
We finally do have a president who has the integrity to do this. We finally do have a DOJ who has the integrity to do this. We know that we have people around the president who not only have the integrity, but have the information and the contacts to get everything done you just said. And you say, well, why aren't they doing it? Everything you're seeing on the news, that's what it's about. That's what this investigation's about. That's what calls of impeachment are about. That's what the globalist attack against Trump is about. That's what the hearings are about. That's what the allegations of Russian spying are about. It's about keeping them off point, keeping them off the agenda, keeping them off task. A lot of what you're watching happening right now, and the misdirection and the complete trying to keep Trump off target goes to that birth certificate. The worst crime in American history was perpetrated against America under the regime of Barack Obama. The media is complicit. Congress is complicit. Federal law enforcement apparently has been complicit. We've got a CIA whistleblower, Dennis Montgomery, whose attorney, Larry Klayman, put it all over the internet the other day that he has said that all of this spying that's been going on American people, that it resulted in manipulation and collusion with judges, Supreme Court justices, congressmen, etc., that James Comey was involved in it, that he was at the top of it. All of this stuff you're seeing about Donald Trump's with the Russians, Donald Trump needs to be impeached, Donald Trump, this is a smokescreen to keep our eyes off of what really happened and what's really going on. And America had better wake up to this, JJ.
Your federal government, your federal law enforcement agencies, our federal intelligence agencies, your federal government in toto has been compromised. The fact that Donald Trump has arrived and said, I'm not going to go along with the status quo anymore, is the cause for alarm for these people on the left. And ultimately, Carl, is it possible that yesterday was simply the first shot fired in an impending civil war between two irreconcilable ideologies?
I don't want our children and grandchildren to see or to participate or to fall victim to such a thing. I don't want our nation to go through such a thing. I don't know that we could survive that. Like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, when he said, now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any other nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. I mean, God's people, we need to pray. We need to not be afraid to speak truth.
Weekdays from noon to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. The J.J. McCartney Show. Exposing the truth. Exposing the lies. Exposing the deep state.
Live from the Nightside Radio Studios.
This is the J.J. McCartney Show.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Coming to you from Nebraska by way of Alaska. Here's J.J. McCartney.
All right, thank you, Marcus, and welcome back, everybody. It's the Wednesday edition of the J.J. McCartney Show with IQ Al Rassooli here. And we're going to talk about, the memo and whether it should be released. You know, I wonder to myself, why is it that people on the left do not trust the American people, do not respect the intelligence of the American people? And what it really comes down to is this. They don't want the people to be informed. They don't want the people to be educated. They don't want we the people to be intelligent enough to ferret out the corruption that exists in our government today. And just like they don't want us to prosper, they also don't want us to know what they do behind closed doors. IQ, I think that's really what it comes down to. They're trying to protect themselves because they know they are guilty. And even people that have, been in office for a very short amount of time on the left, they've all become part of the swamp. And this is really what it comes down to, IQ, the swamp.
Yes, it is the swamp. But he's draining it. By the way, they are draining themselves, literally, they are committing suicide.
Yep.
And I hope they continue. Every time Pelosi opens her mouth, I don't know why they keep her in power in the Democratic Party. She is beyond her use. Beyond. It's time to leave.
It's embarrassing, really. It really is embarrassing. And when you see the behavior of these people in the chambers of the Congress last night during the State of the Union, their disdain for Donald Trump is it's all a part of their complete loss when it comes to their power. You know, they'll tell you that we have very narrow majorities. True. But we haven't seen a leader like Donald Trump in the White House in a very long time. And it proves...
It's Ronald Reagan.
It proves what one strong-willed, God-fearing, and morally upright man can do. And I think that's really what scares them the most. If America...
Especially when he said... Sorry.
If America embraces honesty, integrity, and self-worth, the Democrats might never win again.
No, might. They will never win again because they are not that. And he ended by saying, "In God we trust." That shook them to the core. That really shook them.
Yes, it really did. You know, one of the things I wish... There are only a few times when I wish I had cable TV. Today is one of those days. I wish I could be monitoring some of the news feeds today from Virginia, where the train collision took place, because I value the opinions of many of the pundits that are out there in terms of comparing notes on what we really think we're seeing here today. IQ, we were on the air the day that Steve Scalise was shot. It was a Wednesday.
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
And it's on days like that and days like today that I wish I had the capacity to watch all of these news channels.
And do what with it?
Well, simply be able to see the information and the pictures as it's unfolding. I mean, not that I would put any stock in the obvious slants that would come our way from the different news networks, but just being able to monitor the stuff while we're doing the show and keep an eye out for breaking news and things like that.
JJ, we are a few months after the Las Vegas massacre.
Yes.
Slaughterhouse.
Yes.
And we still haven't got any bloody idea. We have no idea what happened. None. Zero. Only what the news media has told us. Only what the police have told us. And it's all lies. Because they contradict each other. When you contradict, you lie. Simple, not complicated.
I think you're absolutely right. And that's a very good point. The frustrating thing, especially on the heels of the Las Vegas shooting, who do you trust? You can't trust the media. You can't trust, and this is what really opened my eyes, was initially the local sheriff was making comments that seemed to support the idea that this guy was a radicalized terrorist, likely a Muslim. But then somehow somebody got him to back off. Somebody got him to reverse his track and back it down a little bit. Now, I believe that by now the evidence is so tainted and too much time has gone by, and for whatever reason, the narrative of that story has really never germinated. It really hasn't. The left was going to try and make it about gun control. They were going to try and make it they're trying to paint a picture of this guy. But when the evidence appears to suggest that this man was a anti-Trump lunatic, then all of a sudden, the information streams kind of dried up. And then we had the fires in California and all the other news that was going on. And so they just kind of dropped it. And we have yet to hear a plausible explanation for the events that happened on the 2nd or 1st of October in Las Vegas.
Let me ask you a question. God forbid. But I'm not going to ask you the question. I'm giving it to myself. If I had lost a daughter or a son or a brother in that incident, I would go after the police. I would go after the politicians until I get the results. And if I have to use violence to do it, I swear to you, I would use violence to do it. Because I will not accept that somebody close to me is dead and somebody is covering it up. I will never accept it. I don't know about you, but I would do it.
I can't imagine what the families of these victims are going through right now. They shouldn't be going through this. They should get lawyers. They should go together, have a class action. There are millions of lawyers who will go for a class action. Right.
At 30% or 40% or even 50%. I'll give them 50% if they want. I'll go a class action. How is it possible the FBI can't give you an answer? The intelligence, the police doesn't give you an answer. The politicians don't know. First, we had a guy who was a witness. Another one was a second shooter, a third shooter. There were helicopters in the sky. Come on. What is this?
And what about what happened to Jesus? What happened to Jesus?
That's the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Jesus, all of a sudden, gone, finished. Where?
Yeah, exactly right. And you know what? There were more questions about Jesus that never were addressed in the media, never were addressed anywhere that I know of, regarding his background, regarding his injury, the claim that he was injured before the attack took place. There's so much about this that simply doesn't add up.
They haven't even shown the way the murderer died. They haven't shown how he was killed. They say he killed himself. We
also have not seen any of the video surveillance of the hotel that would reveal how he got the weapons into the room. And how he was able to build these platforms in his room, and the simple fact that he was able to keep hotel employees out of his room for as many days as he did.
But that's impossible.
Exactly.
But it's impossible. It's impossible. Right. I mean, they have to come and check your room every day to change the linen, to change the towels. They have to.
And then let's not forget also this Latino woman that got down amongst the concert goers and warned them that they were all going to die that night. And we've never heard an explanation from anybody. To me, that it's obvious that she had foreknowledge that this was coming. And yet nobody did anything about it. And I don't know if she might have gone to the authorities. I don't know. But nobody's saying anything.
Nobody is saying anything.
Exactly.
Nothing is on the record.
Exactly.
Nothing is on the record.
Do you folks out there think we'll ever really know what happened in Las Vegas? Or is
by the way, the conspiracy theorists are calling it false flag.
Yeah. For good reason, I think. It's just like talking about 9/11. Do we really know what happened on 9/11? Or do we just know what the government tells us?
I know exactly what happened on 9/11. Believe me.
You know what?
I know exactly what happened.
I want to hear it.
Look.
I want to hear exactly what happened on 9/11 from IQ al-Rassooli.
Look, simple. Believe me, it's simple. Nothing is complicated. They keep telling you about one building didn't collapse or it collapsed by itself. Why would anybody collapse the Twin Towers with explosives? How did they put all these explosives in such a manner at that moment of time? I mean, there had to be collusion between the State Department, the Intelligence Service, the CIA, the FBI, all the top people of the United States of America,
as well as the Port Authority, the owning interest in the World Trade Center,
with the terrorists.
Yeah, there's no question in my mind.
The only reason these terrorists were able to do what they did is because of arrogance on the American side. I said it once before on your show. Had they copied what the Israelis did on their aircraft, after they were hijacked in aircraft in Israel, the door to the cockpit was armored plated. And nobody goes in and nobody goes out. And if there is a terrorist attempt, the pilot is ordered to turn the plane upside down and down. Upside down.
Wow.
Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you're going to go, you don't wait until the terrorist decides. You do it your way.
I think that...
but the Americans didn't do that.
I think
those
that...
the terrorists, they opened the door and cut the throat of the pilots because they were taking over the plane. They knew how to fly the plane.
But here's the thing, IQ.
They were trained in America to fly planes.
Here's the thing.
Trained in America.
Yeah. I certainly don't think, and I don't think any thinking person thinks that these 19 hijackers were acting on their own. I believe that they had a lot of help. They had when you look at the astronomical odds of novice pilots flying these planes into the buildings that they did, the estimate, and IQ, this is where science and the events as they were seen diverge from one another. Flight number 175, I believe, was the second plane to hit the World Trade Center, if I've got that correct. If I've reversed that, somebody let me know. But a 757, its top airspeed at altitude of 1,000 feet is somewhere around 300 to 350 miles an hour. They claim that that plane was traveling 586 miles per hour when it struck the South Tower.
Why couldn't it?
Why couldn't? Because
my question to you is why couldn't it?
Because structurally, the plane would fall apart if it was flying that.
Not at 500 miles.
IQ, be careful here. You can ask any experienced pilot that has ever flown a 757 whether it's possible for a 757 flying at 1,000 feet to travel 586 miles an hour. They will tell you the same thing. Structurally, the plane could not handle it. The materials that the plane is made of cannot handle those stresses at that altitude. If they're flying at 38,000 feet, they can do 500 to 550 miles an hour with no problem. But the lower...
But these people, kamikaze, they were on suicide mission.
It doesn't... IQ, that doesn't change the laws of physics as it applies.
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Over a period of long time, you're absolutely right. It will tear it apart. On a short period of time, on a suicide mission, my God, yes, you can do it. Believe me. I don't care what anybody says. Most aircraft, most machines are built to withstand enormous damage on if they are, let's say, in their
here's the other side of that, IQ. These were very controlled flights. When you look,
controlled?
Well, what I'm saying is, let me just put it this way: if you're in a passenger vehicle, say a minivan, and you take it to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway where they run the Indianapolis 500, there's no way in the world that you can drive 200, 250, 300 miles an hour. Impossible.
No, of course not.
And
the car is not built to do that.
But even if it were capable of going that fast, an average driver would never be able to control the vehicle at that speed. And it is the same with sophisticated aircraft. And you got novice pilots. None of these guys had ever actually piloted this type of plane before. They'd done simulators, but that's absolutely incomparable to what was achieved on 9/11. And I honestly believe when you look at the odds against the hijackers having everything go right for them, and then to have the consequence of that be steel and concrete and steel reinforced buildings falling because of fire.
Good. I want to understand something.
Yes.
You know, in simple physics, half mv squared, half the mass of the plane, and the v squared is the velocity of the plane squared. Do you have any bloody idea how much energy there is there?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I know how much.
We are talking about 350-ton aircraft.
Okay,
full
IQ,
of fuel. Full of fuel. It's not on empty fuel. Full of fuel.
No, but IQ, I gotta say this, IQ.
Yeah.
If it was a simple case of the buildings imploding upon themselves because of the stresses and the force that was exerted by the aircraft, explain this to me. What happened to the tops of the buildings?
They collapsed on top of each other.
But IQ, there's no force. IQ, there is no force pushing down on the top of the building that would cause IQ. No, I didn't forget IQ. Let me finish. There is the top of the building doesn't have dozens of floors on top of it. So how is it that the top of the building would disintegrate? especially when you're talking about. Yes, it did. IQ. The trusses.
It collapsed on
IQ. No, you're wrong. IQ. You're wrong. The tops of those buildings, were capped with specially designed steel trusses. Those trusses. I mean, we're talking about, virtually indestructible. And when you're talking about the top of the building, that's the last part that's going to be falling down on top of everything else. How is it that it would be so disintegrated that they couldn't even find a piece of it?
I don't know, so tell me how.
Well, there's a lot of theories. And I cannot pretend that I have access to information that nobody else does. But I will say this, I have spent hundreds of hours digging, researching, and looking at information, and it all leads me to one conclusion. Those buildings weren't just flown into. Those buildings were blown to smithereens. Those buildings were absolutely disintegrated. And, well, for example, the highest temperature a jet fuel fire can reach, and this is according to many different sources, is about 1,500 to 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. To melt...
There is no way it's Fahrenheit, centigrade.
No, I'm talking Fahrenheit. We deal with Fahrenheit here in the U.S. But the top temperature is nowhere near the temperature at which structural steel would melt and turn into molten liquid. And yet, before the South Tower collapsed, we saw molten steel pouring out of one of the corners of the second tower. There's only a couple of ways that you can reach those temperatures. And the most common one is thermite. Thermite is an incredibly powerful compound that if you put a couple of drops of it on the top of the hood of an automobile, that it will melt its way right down through the engine block, land on the ground, and keep on melting everything around it until it's expended. How in the world is it that the amount of material in the top floors of the World Trade Center was so disintegrated? You can understand how lower floors would have been, pancaked upon and disintegrated. But the top floors, they don't have any force driving down upon them. And even if the rubble on the ground is burning, it's not going to be able to reduce those caps on the Twin Towers in the fashion that they were. There are so many other things to consider. They're still finding tiny bone fragments on buildings that are much farther away from the World Trade Center than could practically be explained. How could an implosion send so much material to the roofs of bank buildings that were, a mile and a half away? And more than that, there were vehicles east of the World Trade Center, as far away as a few miles, that burst into flames. And they were nowhere near the ejection zone where all the rubble and the dust went after the towers collapsed. Now, I'd love to continue this conjecture, but right now we've got, I believe, Sammy on the line with us. Hello, you're on the J.J. McCartney Show.
Hi, JJ. Hi, IQ. I was just wondering, when it says halal products, because it's funny, I didn't even know. I went to the store and I ended up buying this peanut little candy thing, and it's peanuts, sorry, and it's halal, and I didn't even notice that. Is it really halal, like all of it, or is it they just put it on there? Like, is it like a really like kosher food or not?
No, Islam doesn't have halal except on meat. That's it, nothing else. So I don't know. Is it talking about peanuts?
Yeah, peanuts. It says halal. Yeah.
Yeah, they're copying the Jews. That's exactly what they're doing to make money out of it.
Yeah, it is. It strictly is because even at the store now, there's so much halal meat, and they're pushing out the regular meat and everything where I live.
Yeah.
So
halal is only literally for meat and only meat and nothing else. And you can't have halal wine, but you can have kosher wine.
Yeah, they have halal peanuts and halal meats, and then halal they have halal.
The halal, they're selling it. This is really for the Muslims. They're making money from the Muslims. They have, look, when they go to Saudi Arabia, many of the pilgrims would take back to their home gallons of water. Water. They call it Zamzam water. It's
Zamzam, yes.
Zamzam. Now, Zamzam is a small spring. All this water they're getting is not anything to do with Zamzam. But an indoctrinated religious person, as far as he's concerned, the Saudi government is giving him Zamzam water. And they will take it all the way to Thailand, to China, to wherever they're coming from. And it was a ton of money. It's ordinary water, pure, ordinary water, nothing to do with Zamzam. But it's business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was just wondering, did you read, when I remember a couple of years back on the J.J. McCartney show, you're talking about Osama bin Laden and Muhammad Atta, and you said that when he came to the West, he was eating pork, and he wore a necklace with a cross on it, and him and his entourage when they were down in Venice in Florida. I was just wondering, did you read Osama bin Laden's son's book, where he talks about his father and how his father lived in a mountain in Afghanistan, and how when they were passing through the Middle East, people were going to shoot down their plane? I was wondering, did you read that book by his son?
Unfortunately, no. But I mean,
okay.
I'll tell you the truth. I wouldn't believe anybody talking about Osama bin Laden, because they showed a video of Osama bin Laden, which was captured after they invaded Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. He was sitting, that's after the 9/11 attempt I'm talking about, after the 9/11 attack. Osama bin Laden, Zawahiri, and many of his colleagues were sitting down, and he was explaining to his entourage, in Arabic of course, how the attack happened. He organized it.
Well, that was from there's one from Al Jazeera, because Al Jazeera makes a lot of trouble around the Islamic world. That's why it's Saudi Arabia right now. Yeah, they're shutting it down. They want to shut down Al Jazeera. What's the main reason why they want to shut down that network?
Because that network is like CNN. But the CNN of the Arab world, they tell lies. They tell lies about everybody. Because Al Jazeera is bankrolled by the Qatari people. The
royal house. The royal house.
They have no royal houses. By the way, there are no royal houses.
I know, because in Islam there's no royalty. It's hilarious. It's just a gangster family.
Thank you very much. They're just all of a sudden we have a royal house in Kuwait, a royal house in Saudi Arabia. They don't exist. Yes. They never exist.
Under Sharia law, it's impossible. If you read Sharia law, it's literally impossible to have royalty. But there are royalty. They're literally, the way they live, it's not like the royals in Europe. They're like kings. You're right. It's Sharia law says you can't live like that, but they don't care.
No.
So it's hilarious.
I don't know if you know about Linda Sarsour.
Yes. Oh my gosh, she's crazy.
No. She's not crazy. You Americans are crazy for allowing her to stay in America. She's not crazy at all. You are wrong.
Oh,
she is
strictly Sharia.
Absolutely. She says she loves Sharia. You know something? If I were an American citizen, I would take care, Ellis, the congressman, all of them, I would take them all to court as traitors to the United States of America. I swear to you, all of them.
They should be shot because they should be shot.
No, you don't need to shoot them. All you have to ask any of them, are you a Muslim? And the answer is yes. Are you Sharia compliant? And the answer is yes. Then you are traitors to American people. You are traitors to the American Constitution. What are you doing here? Very simple.
Yeah. To take it over, because Allah said take over the world.
Because the minute you say Sharia compliant, that means the American Constitution is a nemesis, and the American people are infidel kuffar because they're not Muslim.
And they should be
we don't need anything more than that. The trouble is you don't have anybody in America who's got the brains to do that.
Yeah. How did Osama bin Laden get that money? Because I know the royal, the bin Laden family.
Osama bin Laden's got a family who are in construction, for God's sake.
Yeah, I know, the bin Laden family.
Yeah, exactly so. I mean, he's one of the top children.
Yeah, but I read a book on...
billionaires. They're billionaires. They're not billionaires.
I know. I read a book on one of the ex-wives of one of the bin Laden families, and she talked about saying that bin Laden was a black sheep of the family, and they didn't know what he was doing half of the time.
No, he was. He knew exactly what he was doing. Osama bin Laden was 100% a fundamentalist. What I mean by fundamentalist is a man who believes in the fundamentals of his belief system. When you believe in the fundamentals of Islam, then you have to follow Sharia. Who follows Sharia today in the 21st century? ISIS.
Yeah, they're the most religious ones.
Absolutely, they are the most fundamentalist of all of them. ISIS follows the Quran. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I'm so interested. Do you know who? Can you give names? Who is funding them? Like, do you know like the names? Because I know some names. Like from like when I see that certain politicians. But do you know specifically?
Turkey was funding them.
Yeah, I know Edrogene. Edrogene, his son funds them big time.
Yes. So look, nothing is top secret anymore. There is nothing top secret. Believe me, there is absolutely nothing top secret, because today, if the government wants to know about you, they can find out from your credit card what you eat, what toothpaste you use. Yeah. And if they want to destroy you, all they have to do is you close all your accounts. The minute they stop your credit cards, how are you going to live? You die, literally.
But I know that ISIS, they use cages and all like the prison jumpsuits. But is it really funded directly from Saudi Arabia? Like, how do they go through the law system and the international law? Because how do they specifically, like, do they give the money to some random jihadi and they just ship it to Iraq?
Listen. There were banks in England. HSBC was one of them. Barclays Bank was one of them. They were laundering money. Banks launder money. Forget about all the rules and regulations. You know, rules and regulations are for you and me, the ordinary citizen. This is why the Democrats are so stupid. They don't want to have guns. Okay, I don't want them to have guns. I want us to have guns, so that when the time comes, we can eliminate them. Why? Because if you don't have guns, the only people who have guns are the terrorists, are the murderers, are the criminals, because they're not following any law, they're not obeying any rule, and they will get the guns, and we will be the victims. Sorry, no, I don't accept. I want to have a gun, not to kill somebody else, but if somebody comes to my home, I'll blow him.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with you. Because I was wondering, I said, okay, they're sitting there, you see, like, I don't know what's wrong with these foreign ministers, some of them in the Middle East. They're sitting there in, like today, like a couple weeks ago, they were down in Switzerland and Davos or something. And they were sitting there talking about terrorism. I mean, they're not thinking logically that they're the ones that your nation is funding terrorism, and you're sitting there and talking about terrorism. It looks embarrassing. Like, it's so shameful.
This is called taqiyya. You should know the rules.
But it's stupid. Everybody knows about it now.
Yeah, but not everybody knows about it. 90% of humanity doesn't know anything about Islam.
I know Chipman. I know Turnseek. I'm reading Sharia. Oh my gosh, I read over 1,000 pages. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, it's embarrassing. Like you can't sit there, be a foreign minister of some rich nation and talk about terrorism when just last night you were just hearing the call to jihad. This is.
But this is taqiyya. Look, Linda Sarsour pretends to be, she is part and parcel of the American dream, and she brags that she is of Palestinian background.
She's lawless. She's lawless. She's a criminal. She's, you know, like it says to be. They say to be. You know what? It's so easy to define your enemy. It's so easy because all you have to do is 666, mark of the beast. All of them are. They're not actually mark of the beast, but they are. It's simple. They're devil worshippers. They're the most sickest, demented. They're literally demented. Like, it's amazing. But I'm just saying, no one can live under Sharia law. It's impossible to live under.
Only Muslims can live. Only Muslims.
Right. But they can't even live. Look at them when they're. Look at the Arab Spring protests. Why are they protesting? Like, your government has to be right.
Yeah, what kind of what intelligent person would light themselves on fire as a form of protest?
Well, because there's no jobs. There's no jobs. He's dying. There's no jobs.
But he was running. Wasn't he running a falafel stand or something like that? I mean, he wasn't unemployed. He was just distressed by, some kind of tyranny.
No, JJ, you missed it. They stopped him from practicing his work. He was earning a living, but he didn't have a certificate, so they stopped him.
Okay,
and he was earning a living. I mean, the guy was at least decent
here is a question.
To earn a living.
Here's a question. Okay, you give me the answer, and then we'll go from there. Isn't it against the teachings of the Quran to commit suicide?
Yes, but nobody tells you that. No imam will tell you that. This is why they encourage those boys to go and commit suicide. In the hadith, a wounded soldier, one of the supporters of Muhammad, he was so much in pain, he killed himself. When they asked Muhammad, they said he should not have done it. He broke the rule of Allah, and he will suffer in hell forever. Yeah, that was the answer. So if you follow Sharia and you follow the Sunnah of Muhammad, it is prohibited to commit suicide. Now, what he meant, a jihad, is when one soldier fights another soldier and the Muslim soldier dies fighting, not in suicide. Fighting. Huge difference. He's talking about armed forces fighting each other. And when the Muslim in the armed forces dies, he is a shaheed, he's a martyr. But when those people go and blow themselves up, not a single one of them will end up anywhere, except down under.
Right.
Yeah, and the thing,
but the Imam will not tell them this. Why? Because it suits Islam to have these people killing infidels like us.
Yeah.
Nobody will tell them this.
You're right, IQ and JJ. I find it funny how, like, you can't really, even if you show a Muslim, look at, like, you live in a lie. Like, I'm sorry, you can't be in this country in Canada and you're living, like, you can't live here. Like, you can't, Their minds are so paralyzed because they're hearing hell 24/7 in their verses. Hell, hell, hell. Their minds are paralyzed with fear. And I find that's why you can't really get through their minds. They're so convinced. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, but they can't live here. Like, period. They can't live in Canada, even though Justin Trudeau's letting them by, like, thousands. And in Europe, they don't know what to do with them. They're giving them, Italy, it's giving them 250-something million pounds to ship them back to, Algeria and these countries. I'm trying to figure out how is Algeria even letting them into Europe, in those nations, like the refugees? How are they getting here?
By boat.
I know, but, like...
You know who's saving them by boat? The Italians. The Italian Navy is saving them. The Greek Navy is saving them.
Yeah, how's the Algerian government, like the North African governments, are they just shipping them by the thousands and millions?
Yes, because that's part and parcel of jihad. This is
I know, immigration, yeah.
Immigration is jihad. Yeah. The ultimate jihad is immigration. So why not? Of course, they are trying to send millions of them. Millions in Europe. Europe will be destroyed, and that's it. That's exactly what they want. They want to destroy Europe.
Yeah, and then they bring them here, so the Kafir will train them how to, work, how to get citizenship, etc., etc. And then when they get a mighty hand, they'll turn on them and kill them.
Yes. Wait a minute. In Minnesota, And many of the terrorists who support ISIS are black Somalis from Africa.
Yeah, strictly.
Somalis.
Minneapolis, too. They're down there,
so what
too.
are we discussing? And who brought them in? Obama. Obama brought them in.
He doesn't know that. He doesn't really know what's going on. Even though he was so close to Muslim, Obama, even though he was so close to Muslim
Obama
Brotherhood.
knew exactly what he was doing. Do me a favor, Sam.
So
Obama is an anti-American. And Obama, he hates whites. He is, you know, they always talk about Obama as a black man. But that piece of garbage is not only black, it's 50% white.
Yeah, it's because of his skin color.
They just 50% white.
Yeah, he's mulatto, yeah.
He's a mulatto, exactly. A mulatto is 50-50, so his color is black. But he's half white, and he hates the half white.
Yeah, but I think he was very close to the Muslim Brotherhood. That's why maybe they influence his mind. I mean, these guys are manipulators. All of them are manipulators. They're good at taqiyya online. It's, like, ridiculous. They deserve an Academy Award. Literally. These are the best leaders on the face of the earth. Oscar
But wait a minute. He got better than an Academy, Sam. He got the Nobel Prize before doing anything.
I'm not talking about Obama. I don't really care.
Can you imagine? He had no decency. I mean, if I were offered a Nobel Prize not doing anything, I would have been ashamed to take it. I haven't done anything. I would have said, thank you very much. I'm grateful, but I can't take it. I haven't done it.
They're elite.
But he is
They're elite.
no
They don't care.
dissolute. He has no character. He has no decency. He took it.
Yeah. It's amazing. I just think that look at now the Muslim Brotherhood is in trouble because I guess Qatar is like really into them, or Islamists, whatever they call them. It's all the same thing at the end of the day. And now Saudi Arabia and all these countries are mad at that nation. You know, it's hilarious, but like the Muslim Brothers not really doing anything wrong. They're actually following like literally the Quran. So I'm trying to figure out, why are the other nations mad at them? It's hilarious. Like, I'm trying.
No,
they want to cancel it.
You are right. The Muslim Brotherhood are fundamentalists. They are not radical. They're fundamentalists. There's no such thing as
100%.
They are 100%. But they are threatening the so-called royals of the Middle East. So the royals, no, of course, it's nothing to do with Islam anymore. It's to do with who will control the wealth. Who will control the government? Who will control the people? That's it. That's all there is.
It's just
in Islam, it's only to do with control and nothing else.
Yes. That's what Nani Darwish said. She's Egyptian. She came to America years and years ago. She said it's just about strictly control. You know, you're going to be under an iron boot, right? But it's ridiculous. Like, it's like they don't know their own book, and we, the non-believers, we have to teach them. And they're like, oh, we have to teach you about our faith. I mean, the taqiyya business is over. Kitman, turn speak. It's so annoying. Like, watching them on YouTube, it's so annoying. They're so brainwashed to the core. They're so fanatically convinced. I'm like, there's nothing. To me, it's not even an ideology. It's just madness. It's like, you want to be a criminal today? You want to be Chucky? Join the organization, right? It's Chucky's organization. They're just running around and killing people.
Yeah, here's my take on it. To the twisted, evil souls, Islam is nothing more than the excuse they use to indulge their evil urges. It's not a serious religion to them. It is simply the tool that they exploit so that they can walk around raping, killing, pillaging, and otherwise just terrorizing everybody that they don't like.
Yeah, that's why they're mentally sick, and I blame their mothers, because their mothers feed them hatred for their breast milk. You can really blame the mothers because they're the ones that grow up these children to hate. And I'm like, you can't function in society if you're just hate in everything. You hate this earth. You hate everything. Even when you're under Sharia law, you hate it.
Well, isn't that ironic though?
Country.
Isn't that ironic when you consider the way that Islam treats women, that it would be the mothers that nurture the hatred within their kids to embrace a system that is so oppressive.
Yeah, it is. And then the woman, the mothers, you hear them complain in Saudi Arabia. They want to be free. There's feminist Saudis. There's feminist this. I said, you can't be a feminist under Sharia law, honey buns. It's impossible. You can't. You know the reason why you're living under that is because your belief says so. What do you want? And then they come here and say, well, we want. It's like there's no. Oh, they're so challenging. They're such a challenging bunch of people. I'm not even joking. Like you can't live. Like I don't know. It's crazy. It's a wacko system. It makes no sense. It contradicts itself back and forth. You can tell he was making it up as he was going. Because 5 minutes later, he says something else. Like, I don't know what they want. I mean, like, it's crazy. And the more mightier they are, the more crimes, the more rape, the more genocide, mass retardation, mass killing, mass suicide, everything. Right under your nose. They're all around you. They're your employees. They're your bosses. I don't care if they can't be nice when they're reading from that. It's impossible to be nice. They're Jack the Rippers.
You know what really, when we look at this also, let's not just pick on Muslims. As easy as that is to do, let's not just pick on Muslims. You look at the history of the human race, and godlessness always seems to manifest itself in violence, bloody wars, and evil people. I mean, Attila the Hun, was he a Muslim?
I have no idea. I can't remember.
I know Adolf Hitler's ideology was very close to Muhammad's, but was he a Muslim? No.
No, he was Catholic.
But when you look at the Pol Pots of history, when you look at all of these figures throughout history, from the Huns to Genghis Khan, all of these people.
Yeah, but
what is it that they really have in common? And the answer is godlessness.
Domination.
Godlessness.
Domination.
It's godlessness.
No.
Oh, yes, IQ. I'm going to have to...
For God's sake.
IQ.
Wait, JJ.
No, you wait. I've sat here and listened to you two talk for the last 15 minutes.
Okay,
I'm saying that the problem with the human condition is godlessness always breeds sin. And the sin, the sins of the sons... the sins of the father get revisited upon the sons. There are generational curses that take place among godless people. And what you have people that believe that somehow the world is against them. And so they feel the need to lash out at the world. And they don't understand that it's the human condition. If you don't have God anchoring you and steering you and correcting you and teaching you how to live, then no matter what generation or tribe you come from, it leads to no good. And when you allow godlessness to become so prolific in the world, whether it's Islam or whomever, the end of that is the way of death. And we are told this in the Bible. There's a way that seems right unto a man, but its end is the way of death. And yes, I know that Muslims, especially in this last 100 years, but certainly for the entirety of the from its founding 1400 years ago, but certainly in the last 100 years, Islam has gone from being a nuisance around the world to being a serious threat to peace, to civilization, to our way of life. And the only reason that this has happened is because of the apologists out there that are trying to stay away from calling Islam what it really is. IQ, it's the apologists.
And they're going to get butchered.
IQ, it's the apologists in the world that have empowered Muslims.
True. But you have the Pope empowering Muslims, the European Union empowering Muslims, the Democratic Party empowering Muslims. Many in the Republican Party are not concerned about America's security,
and
empowering
and
Muslims.
the news media.
All your education system, by the way, empowering Muslims. Your education system empowers Muslims. It attacks Christians, it attacks Jews, and it empowers Muslims in the universities. As we speak, it's not top secret.
That's
what's happening.
Does anybody recall the last time that there was a mass terror attack carried out by Christians?
No, not a long time. No.
And, the same, I mean, it's the same with, I haven't seen the Hindus blow anything up lately, or the Buddhists. It's all about, and the thing that doesn't make any sense to me is why so many people around the world have chosen to act in a manner that is against their best interests and the best interests of their families. It's madness. It's utter lunacy.
It's herd mentality. Yeah, no, it's the herd mentality. Nobody wants to be called a racist.
No.
I love being called a racist. I'm proud to be a racist.
Anybody who says they're not a racist is a liar.
Because there is nothing more racist than Islam.
Well, anybody that claims
I'm compared to them, I'm nothing.
Anybody that claims they're not a racist is lying.
Of course they're lying.
There's bound to be somebody somewhere that honestly wants to love everybody and everything. But when you see the manner with which the Muslims have indiscriminately gone and killed, women, children, as well as the men. I mean, it's absolute evil. It's evil incarnate. And for people to pretend that that's okay with them because they're just being faithful to their religion, people that think that way I actually think they're a bigger threat than Islam itself.
Of course they are.
Because they have created the fertile soil in which Islam can grow.
Correct. They're undermining our society.
Yes.
This is exactly what's happening. They're undermining our society. They are reducing our ability to comprehend. They are not allowing us to fight back. It's self-destructive. Your program, my program, and programs similar to ours, these are the only ones who are telling the truth about Islam. Not a single program on television or radio in the mainstream media tells you the truth.
That's
not
right.
One.
Yeah.
Well, Sammy, we've plumb run out of time here. So, thank you for calling.
Thanks, Sammy. Thanks for calling.
I know we'll talk again soon.
Okay.
God bless you. Take care.
Okay.
IQ, 2.5. How in the world 2 hours goes by so fast? I don't know. But here we sit again. I thank you, my friend, and we'll see you next week. Right? All right. Thank you. Okay, folks, that's going to do it for the Wednesday edition on this 31st day of January. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. And you know what? Tomorrow we've got Michael Cutler on the program. So be sure and join us for that. We'll talk about the president's speech. We'll talk about the immigration policies that President Trump is talking about. And so much more. Michael Cutler on the program tomorrow live at 3:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Hey, listen, folks. We're not just paying lip service to any of this. It is absolutely imperative that the American people wake up to the realities of what's happening in the world around us. And when the news media tries to pass off the collision of this Amtrak train with this garbage truck as simply coincidence or just a simple accident, I have to take issue with that because, we live in the real world here. And I don't believe in coincidence. I simply don't believe in coincidence, not when you've got an Amtrak train carrying 300 Republican lawmakers and it winds up colliding with a truck on the railroad tracks. Sorry, I'm not going to buy that. Somebody knows exactly what's happened, and for whatever reason, they're hesitant to say it. Stay tuned. All right, my friends, be good to yourselves, and if you possibly can, be good to someone else. And remember, we'll win in the end because there are more of us than there are of them, because God is with us, and because we are all in this thing together. That's exactly what President Trump's speech last night was really all about. So let's keep on pulling together. We'll see you tomorrow with Michael Cutler, our guest. Until then, God bless. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. See you on Thursday. Bye-bye.